Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, Resident / of / Collinwood for BitChute. I'm here to talk about the Dark Shadows revival. You know, I was talking to John Philip Betancourt earlier today, and he was watching the Dark Shadows revival, and we were talking about it as he was watching it. Here's my summary of this sort of maybe not summary. I guess I don't really want to say review because I guess I'll call it a review. My thoughts about the Dark Shadows revival are this. Number one, was it good? Yes. Was it different? Yes. It did have the same name characters. You had Victoria Winters, who was played by the beautiful Joanna Going. And this Victoria Winters was an orphan, but with a catch, with a twist. And shout out to John. I'm going to give him some shout outs through this, and not just him, but he was saying there were really good twists in the revival, and he's right. There were very good twists in the revival. You know, Victoria actually being Josette into the future was a good twist. Matt, shout out to at I_Barnabas, because he said this one. Maggie being a medium. He had said that in our Dark Shadows discussion we had a while back ago. And, you know, they're both right. That you have a lot of good things here. Is the material good? Yes. Is the chemistry good? Now here's where the catch-22 to me lies. Okay? Was there enough new material with new characters? Well, let's look at this, shall we? You had a hint at David's mother. Now, they never show David's mother. This is sort of why, you know, for those who have been following along with my Dark Shadows revival continuation, it's funny, I'm working on it. Right before I shot this video, I was working on it, and I'm going to go right back to that when I get done with this. I had included David's mother in my story because I had remembered that from the revival. Maggie Evans, who's a medium, called David's mother a witch, and David had some sort of power too. Now, I haven't thrown David's power in there yet. I don't know if I'm going to or not. That's something I'm debating in my mind. Still yet as I'm writing this. But here's the thing. If they would have showed her, it wouldn't have been a bad idea. It could have gave them a potential direction to go. That's something I think I'm finding really tricky most with the revival. I know a lot of people point to the Gulf War, but and I'm curious if anyone knows, if anyone wants to hit me up on Twitter or something. I heard that they were going to bring Quentin into this. That's what they were going to come back with. But I'm curious because why not bring it back with David's mother? You know, I think if they would have introduced David's mother prior to going back to Barnabas's timeline, you could have had another villain. And what I mean by, and I was saying I've had trouble with this. This is probably my most tricky thing I've ever written. And here's why. As I'm going through this, as I'm going into the revival, I'm thinking, man, I need heels. I need villains other than Angelique. And for every heel, you want to have a potential hero or set up for a hero. Well, for Angelique has to worry about the Guardian of Time. The Phoenix, she seems unmatched, and on the surface, she does, right? Well, I'm going to get into that with these two next chapters. What I wanted to do was keep villains coming with this, because that's the one thing I found very hard pressed with this overall, the villains. It was very hard to come up, and I'll admit to that. Look, I'm not a perfect writer. I'm not the greatest writer in the world. By far, I'm not. And what I'll say is that this was hard to come up with to come up with the villains, because I was really going off of really the revival. I went off the Phoenix. I wanted to do my own version of the Phoenix any damn way. So I'm thinking, you know what, fuck it, throw Laura in here. She was sort of mentioned. Why not? Quentin was a rumor. We don't know if you know. It would have been interesting to see if the revival would have got picked back up. But I think the revival, the catch-22 of the revival really is, because I think I got off track there a little bit. The catch-22 of the revival for me was, you had a good story, but it just felt so similar. No matter how different they made these characters, and even Roger's character was different. Him and Maggie had a love angle going. You know, you had Joe and Carolyn, who were definitely sexually active. You had Angelique, who was sexually active. Me and John were talking about this on Messenger. Huge shout out to him. I definitely appreciate it, man. You messaged me as you were watching that, and I'm glad he finally got to watch the revival. He said he wanted more of it. So he's getting a huge, huge shout out and huge plug on here. I'm going to leave a link to his blog for sure. I'm going to leave a link in the description. I'm going to if I can't leave two links, because I keep having trouble with with this new YouTube setup. They have for mine to leave two links on YouTube. So both links will be in the description box for BitChute. So what I'll do is both links will be on BitChute, because BitChute doesn't offer that problem yet. I don't know why. I don't know how to like do the double, because it's videos for YouTube now that I have to upload on, and the way it's constructed, it's giving me fits, and I'll try to sort that shit all out, guys. I promise. But if I can sort it, if you see both links, I've sorted the problem. So, my thing of the revival, though, what was the good, the bad, and the ugly? The good was the characters. They made them somewhat different. The bad, it just seemed like they were rehashing the old storylines. I mean, they weren't. There needed to be, and this is what I mean by they should have introduced the Phoenix prior to going back, or as they were coming out of it. They should have left this. The only cliffhanger they leave you with two cliffhangers, really. And because they hadn't mentioned the Phoenix in a while, since going back in the time. They leave you with two cliffhangers. One, Victoria knows Barnabas' secret. She knows he's the vampire. Number two, Angelique is in Maggie Evans's body. So here's the you have two cliffhangers, and it's like, okay, that's not really a lot to do or to go on. You sort of you'd have to almost make shit up to come back to this. And that's sort of what Rude Awakening so far has been my favorite day, because it just made a lot of sense to do, okay, this woman got almost pulled back to her present day. Well, what if a guardian of, and that's sort of how my concept started. Well, what if a guardian of time pulled her back? And I asked my friend Darnell Weeks if I could sort of use him as the imagery of that character. And I want to give a huge shout out to him, especially the Sin's Fallen Back. Huge shout out to him for letting me do that, because it's just a lot of fun to put him in stories. It really is. I also want to thank John Philip Betancourt for letting me use his imagery for Clay Oliveira in the revival as well. I've had a lot of fun writing my revival continuation. I really have had, I can't tell you how much fun I've had coming back to YouTube and just talking Dark Shadows and talking other things, having my guests I've had on, John, Philip Bencourt, Daniel Culver, at Mag, at 1981 Mag. Huge shout out to those guys. They've been lots of fun to bring on. And the one thing I want to say too is about the revival before I clear out of here. Could it have worked completely? Did it have good enough of a feel? I think it did, but again, you gotta have hindsight on this too. For as good as Ben Cross and Joanna Going were, and they were, and the cast was good, I mean, really, there were, and that's something me and John were sort of talking about. Joanna Going stole this show from everybody the fuck else. I mean, really, she did. She was amazing in this, and it's as good as she was, as good as the actors and actresses were. It's just the story wasn't fresh enough to continue on. And I do think that's something that needs to be said about the revival, because the one, again, I've told you guys I had trouble thinking about villains. The one thing I did not want to do was fall into the trap of this is going to be the same old, same old. No, I wanted to make this as different as humanly possible, and even then some, because if I made it just the same plot line, same old plot, it would be boring. I don't want to be a boring writer. I don't want to be, oh, yawn, I've heard that shit before. I really don't. So I did, I do like the revival, and I know John liked it too. Again, huge shout out to him. It's always fun chatting him up on Messenger and stuff. He's really cool. Check him out on Facebook. John Philip Betancourt. He also has a blog page, which I'm going to leave a link in the description box, on BitChute and YouTube. And oh, I'm getting a message. It's okay. Which here's the one thing I want to mention too. Did I like Willie Loomis, the character of Willie Loomis? I wish they would have added not necessarily something to him, but something more for him to do. Willie Loomis, even though the performance was different enough, it just felt like it wasn't John Carlin's Willie Loomis, and I like that, right? But here's my thing, man. I wish they would have given him something else to do. It's just like they weren't given enough things for certain characters to do. I mean, they killed off Joe Haskell, and that let you know. When characters start dying off, it's because they don't have nothing for them to do, and that's sort of I mean, is that every show with every writer? Yeah, I do that too. I mean, when I have nothing left for a character, it's like, you're fucking out of here. Whether it's by body bag or just I'm kicking you out of town. But so so I just want to thank everybody. Again, I want to give a couple of you more shout outs for a go. John Philip Betancourt, he's on Facebook. His link will be in the description box for his Facebook page, for his story page, The Return of Dark Shadows. Link will be in the description box on BitChute for John's blog. Also at I_Barnabas, Mag 1981's channel. He's at I_Barnabas. At 1981 Mag. You could catch John Philip Betancourt at Paw Bragg, at Return Shadows. You could catch Darnell Weeks at the Myers Fan 25. I'm just throwing the plugs. I'm throwing them out there. See, I'm having fun here. God. But I'm trying to think if there's anything I want to say about this. Uh, Something else we were talking about too was everybody knew Angelique was the witch, right? I mean, that's sort of what. That's the one problem I had with the revival. That's the major plot point I had an issue with the revival was everybody heard, Jeremiah Collins, who was played by Adrian Paul, say it was Angelique who put this curse on, who put that on and made him a zombie. And it was like, okay, everybody and their mother's fucking brother now knows Angelique's a witch. Yet Victoria Winters is gonna get fucking hung. How the fuck did that make any goddamn sense? It didn't. It really, really didn't. Oh God. It just didn't. I agree with John. It just it didn't. It made no sense. Hey, that's the witch over there. What do you mean you don't believe you're gonna hang that girl? Motherfucker. Let me tell you. That's a crack team they got in Collinsport right there. That's a crack detective team, I tell you. Alright, guys, I'll see you. Like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.